so glad that you guys are here. I heard about some interesting traffic situations, so there might be some other people coming a little bit later. But thank you guys for taking time to come tonight. We just have a little bit of housekeeping. These are the participants, our people that put together Purposeful Life. We have Bryan ISD, College Station ISD, Brazos Valley Center for Independent Living, and Facets, and then the Center on Disability and Development. We all work together as a group to make this happen. So tonight, we want to say thank you to PSUN. Thank you, PSUN, for providing childcare as well as the PATS program from Texas A&M. Those students are also helping us tonight. And a huge thank you to Central Baptist for allowing us to meet here. They don't charge us, and they set up our sound and our screens and everything. They're so generous. And then tonight, CSIP provided our dinner via Jason's Deli. So y'all can say thank you, Jason's Deli. Next time you go in, they provided a grant for the dinner tonight. So we really appreciate them. Our next session is going to be December 5th. So you'll get an email from Amy Day when the registration is open for that, along with the topic, because we're still working on it. Still working on the topic. And we want to remind you guys about the sensory-friendly movies at Cinemark. So there's one film per month, and this next one is Moana 2. Very exciting. And so tickets are available on their website to purchase, and it's the first day of the first Saturday of the month. Okay, so the next one is December the 7th, Moana 2. I didn't know there was a 2, y'all. I'm behind, but I'm sure it's awesome. If you have any questions that you might want to ask in front of other people, you can email us at purposefullifebcs@gmail.com, and we will get back to you. Okay? So if you have a specific question for a specific person, you can address it to that person. Otherwise, we'll just figure it out and get back to you. And at the end, we are going to have surveys for you to fill out, so you can either do them on your phone or we have some paper ones. We really value your input. We choose the topics based on what you say. And we make adjustments based on what you say. Because this is for you guys, to support you and just to provide some care for caregivers who are working really, really hard. So tonight, we're talking about, I can do that. About independent skills. So as parents and educators, right, our job is to help our kids be as independent as possible and confident that they can set goals and make them, that they can learn new things. And it starts when they are itty bitty and they have that first I want that, and they get it, right? All the way through to what their career goals might be. So it covers a wide span, and parenting is a long-term job, right? So we're just going to talk about some things tonight. So we're going to talk about why encouraging independent skills is so important. Look at why we might not want to do that sometimes, why we're reluctant to push. We're going to categorize some critical skills needed for independence and learn some different strategies that you might use to teach them. We're going to look at some ways to maybe step back instead of doing for our kids. And hopefully you guys will leave with one thing that you want to start working on next with your kiddo, just one. I think that sometimes we get really ambitious and we make a lot of goals, and then everything falls apart. It's too much. It's too much for us. It's too much for them. So hopefully you can leave with kind of one thing that you're set your sights on. And we're going to really try not to judge ourselves or feel guilty in this phase, okay? Everybody in here is working really hard to care for your kids and to make sure they have what they need. And so we're here to support each other and for you to support yourself and to be kind to yourself while we're doing this. Okay, so I say that because the first thing I want you to do is take that piece of paper that says the list at the top. You should have gotten 3 pieces of paper like that. You didn't get all of this. That's okay. Amy's bringing some. Y'all need 2? And we're going to take 3 minutes, and I want you to write down everything that you did for your child today or prompted them to do in those time frames that are on the paper, okay? You aren't gonna have to show this to anybody. This is just like a self-awareness check, okay? I'm not gonna ask you to raise your hand and tell me what they are or anything like that. Okay, so if you'll just do that, this is just gonna help you. Okay, so I'm gonna set the timer and we're gonna do that for 3 minutes. If you're at home and you didn't see the list on the website, the times were like 5 to 8 in the morning. So basically like from the time your child woke up, you have to wake up your child all the way to they walked into school, and then after school, and then evening, just to kind of help you block it off. All the things. Did you hand your child their backpack? Did you open the car door? Did you tell them to get their backpack? Did you tell them to open the car door? How many shoes did you hand them? How many socks did you put on? All the things. Were you surprised by how many things there were, or were you like, yep, I knew this. I knew this was what was happening. Yeah. So there are a lot of things that our children need to learn to do, or that we hope they will learn to do, as many of those things as possible. So I just kind of want you to put that aside, but that's just kind of get your brain going. So let's talk about like why encouraging independent skills is so important. These are things that I don't think about often, so I bet that some of you haven't thought about these frequently either, but it allows your child to have more freedom now and in the future, the more things they can do for themselves, right? It allows you more freedom. You get to sleep 15 more minutes in the morning if your kiddo can get themselves up and get dressed and brush their teeth and start their breakfast. And it's important because some of our kids don't have kind of that internal, I'm big now and I want to do it, and they may let you do it for a really, really long time, okay? That's not every kiddo, but there are those kids who do that. And so if you kind of wait for them to want to do it, you may be waiting until they're 14 or 15 or 16, and we don't want to do that. That's too late. Also, it increases our child's self-esteem. So even though they're fussing at you when you're trying to encourage them to do it really will increase their self-esteem the more things that they are able to do on their own. Because as they get older, the less you're in their space, the more they feel really good about themselves. That they are a part of the world and they are kind of managing their world on their own. It's just really, really important. Learning these different independent skills could affect your child's educational placement or their job placement in the future. It allows your child to be cared for by others more easily if they're able to do things on their own. It gives your child increased access to a variety of activities and different social environments. So sometimes we're reluctant to teach critical skills, independent skills, because we think it's too hard, they can't do it, it's too hard for them. We don't want to see them struggle. Y'all, watching kids struggle is so hard. It is so hard. But the struggle is part of building perseverance and resilience in them, right? And it's also really makes the I did it even more satisfying, right? And it also, struggle is just part of life, right? And so it's good for them to learn we struggle and struggle and struggle. We get support when we're struggling, and we have support, and then we do it, right? And I'm doing that daily also, right? It's just a really important life skill. And legitimately, it takes a lot of energy, and you're already exhausted from all the things you did before this task that you've decided you're now going to teach them. And it's hard. It's hard. Another thing you might be thinking is, if I push them, it's going to set off a string of really unpleasant behaviors. And it might. And it might. But we could talk to you about kind of how to, or their teacher, you could talk with their teacher about what works with them, about kind of like how to set it up, support them in it, and then really give them a lot of support after they've done it and reward that effort. But if they don't have those unpleasant behaviors, if you don't push them, even if it causes unpleasant behaviors, they won't learn the skill, right, that they need. I work with a lot of different parents, and none of them are in the room who have said this to me, but a lot of them are like, they're my baby, I want to keep doing it. I'm like, oh, but they're too big, you know? And I get it, like, it's the last kid, and you're not going to have any more babies, and I feel it, but we gotta let that go. We gotta let that go. Because that's not gonna work for them, right? As they get older, other people aren't gonna say, oh, but you're the baby. They're not gonna say that. They're gonna say, why aren't you doing that? You know? Also, sometimes we think, oh, they're just late bloomers and they'll pick it up later. But really, research shows that we need to purposefully teach skills, starting early, with lots and lots and lots of repetition, okay, in order for our kiddos to be successful in the future. This is just a little cartoon that Lucinda found last time we talked about this. It's a little engine whose parents did everything for him. Push me, I'm waiting. Well, Mom, I'm waiting. We don't want that. We want the little engine that's like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Okay, so we're gonna go through just some skills for independence in different areas, and this is not exhaustive, but as we're going, why don't you just like put a check next to the skills that your kid is already super successful at, and then a little asterisk next to the ones that still need work. And you might think of things within the categories that I'm not saying that you might need to work on. It might kind of trigger a thought. And there's also a list that you picked up that has all of these things on it and a few more. So, right, dressing, super important. Getting dressed and undressed. We've got fasteners. We've got footwear, right? Lots of different kinds of footwear. Picking out appropriate clothes for the occasion, for the weather. Purchasing clothes. Purchasing clothes. We have to learn how to buy our own clothes eventually, right? Washing clothes, drying clothes, folding clothes, putting clothes in the closet. All of that is really important that our kids learn how to do. And I have friends whose 5-year-olds help take care of their wash, right? they're typically developing 5-year-old, but I don't think it really matters. Like, if you, in your mind, set like a discipline, like, you're gonna help me wash your clothes every week. They get their clothes, they put them in the washer, we do all the things. They can learn at a really early age to start washing clothes. And I find that doesn't happen super often. Feeding themselves. They really should be feeding themselves as soon as possible with a spoon or a fork. Drinking with a straw, like if you go to a restaurant, they always give you a straw, right? So we want our kids to be able to drink from a straw with a lid and without a lid. Because if you go to a restaurant that's not fast food, they're not going to give you a lid for your drink, right? So you want to be able to do that. Restaurant etiquette. How do you act in a restaurant? And how is it different at fast food versus when you go somewhere fancy? An Amos steak. Setting a table to eat. Cooking. Involve your kids early in cooking as much as you can. It also helps them be a little more interested in trying food if they've helped touch it. Just having them touch it and smell it and experience it as you're cooking it really helps with motivation for trying food. Also, purchasing food items. We need to know how to buy things at the grocery store. So I totally understand why you go to the grocery store while your child is at school. Like, I get it. But if once a month you could go to the grocery store for like 3 things after they come home from school, or 2 things, so you don't have to be in there long, but they have the experience of going in. This is how we act in the grocery store. This is how we find the milk. We put it in the cart. We take it to the checkout. And having them help put it on the conveyor belt, giving the money, all of that is super, super helpful. Starting really little. And if they're already teenagers, stepping back and letting them go through the line. Or they don't have to be teenagers, they can be 8, letting them go through the line on their own. But especially if they're teenagers. Hygiene, washing hands, toothbrushing, hair care. So we've got washing, drying, brushing, fixing, product. A lot of things are involved with that, right? Bathing and shaving also in our culture. Beards are kind of in right now, so that can work to our advantage, but still lots of kiddos are needing to learn to shave. Toilet training is always on everybody's mind, and super, super important. So we want them to be able to use the toilet for all of their needs and be able to wipe themselves, right? And so here's something that I'm seeing happen a lot is students coming to school refusing to use the toilets for bowel movements because we don't have wipes. So I know that toilet wipes are nice and convenient at home, but if you think your child might have a problem generalizing that to school, if you could like just switch to toilet paper, I'm begging you, because it's really a problem, especially, and we don't often catch it until like junior high or high school, when we're like, they won't go in the bathroom, what's happening, you know? So if you guys could just think about that, because it's really hard for them to switch. And taking care of their menstrual needs, using the public restroom etiquette in the public restroom, right? In the men's restroom and the women's restroom, and it's all different. And just privacy, like we close the door to the stall if you're going to a stall, right, in the restroom. We don't talk to people that we don't know in the bathroom. Like, these are things you might not think about until it happens to you and you're in the bathroom and you're like, whoa, you know, that's inappropriate. But these are things we need to tell our kids because they don't know. If you don't tell them, they don't know. And then, you know, washing their hands, of course, after they go to the restroom. Communication is a life skill, right? So whether our kids are verbal or they're using advice or they're signing, however it is that they're communicating, there are a lot of things involved in communication. We want them to be able to request things. We want them to be able to take turns in conversation, to listen to the person who's talking to them. Asking for help, we really want them to be able to ask for help in all different environments. At home, at school, if they were in a store, how do you ask for help and who do you ask themselves, right? Accepting when someone tells them no. Very, very difficult. And something that we really need to train on from a very, very young age, even though it's really hard on the parent. It's really hard. But it will provide access to a lot more opportunity for them if they are able to do that. And this isn't on there, but in addition to accepting no, being able to negotiate, right? So some kids are really great at negotiating. And I meet other kids who don't know how. They don't even know it's an option. So if they said, oh, well, but can I have 5 more minutes? The adult might say yes, but they don't know to say that, right? So teaching children to negotiate and then accept the no, right? But that they can still say what they want and they can provide another option to the person who's talking to them is another really important life skill. Learning how to communicate with different kinds of people. We speak to people who are our grandparents' age differently than we speak to our friends, right? We speak differently to teachers than we do to our brothers and sisters. So really teaching those differences is important, really important, and it's important for employment, right? It's really important for employment, for our students to stay employed. They need to be able to communicate with different people. And then disagreeing with respect. A lot of adults are also working on this, right? But we kind of all know what it's supposed to look like, right? And so teaching our students to do that is really important because we want them to be able to disagree. We don't want them to say yes, yes, yes to everything everyone believes or proposes to them, right? But we also want them to be able to do it with respect so that they state their desire or their belief or their opinion, they listen to the other person, and then they work it out or they move on, right? It's really, really important. I wrote a social story the other day about public disturbances and how in our country we value peace in public, right? And so if you are screaming and yelling in public, it's called a public disturbance, and it's against the law, right? And so these are things that we need to teach our kids. They don't just know. Chores, right? Laundry, vacuuming, cleaning their room, cleaning the house, because we want them to have their own space that they learn how to clean. Getting their things organized for daily activities. So looking at the calendar, what's happening tomorrow? Oh, I need to get these things ready. Or we're going to grandma's, I need to pack my bag. You know, those kind of things. Want them to be able to learn to do. And socialization, here's another set of things. Learning coping strategies for emotional regulation, really important. I feel like I'm getting upset, I know I need to leave the room. And calm down, and then I can come back, or I need to take some breaths. Or I need to give myself some squeezes, or I just need to like put my hands together and squeeze really hard. Being able to work in groups is important. It's not the only way to work, right? Eventually, in employment, you don't always have to work in groups, but it does give you more options for employment if you can work in groups. Accepting others' opinions, learning to play. Learning to play is really important for making friends, and it's actually really important for language development and turn-taking in language development. And it's important for feeling a sense of community and not feeling alone. If you can play with people, it increases your joy and increases sort of that feeling of togetherness. And some of our kids don't know how to play automatically. We have to teach them how to take turns. We have to teach them how to build together. We have to teach them how to do Maddington play games together, how to be a good sport. Like, there's a wide range, but it's really important. Adults who don't know how to play are not as happy. They're just not as happy. We want our kids to enjoy their life. Learning to be flexible in their thinking when things don't go their way. Also, I know many adults who are working on this, myself included, but we need to be thinking about that, like teaching, and I'm going to talk about some strategies in a minute. I'm not going to do that resolving conflicts, being able to work at a task independently, as well as work at a task and receive like correction or redirection while they're doing it, because that's important for school and employment, right? To be able to receive criticism. Okay, so hopefully you have checked some things and you have asterisked some things. That's not really a verb, but I just made it a verb. And I'm just going to show you some strategies that we use that you can choose from, perhaps to work on whatever it is that you choose to do next. So we're going to look at some checklists in written and picture form. We're going to talk about providing planned opportunities to practice, something we call live out loud as a strategy, and then looking for naturally occurring opportunities. So these are some examples of written and picture schedules. So you can use them for anything, but these are just examples of a morning schedule, a getting dressed schedule. On that one, you move the picture over. I put my shirt on and move it over. I put my these on and move it over. And then we have a recipe with a visual if you're working on cooking. So the tip about visuals is that when we get information in through our ears, if you don't have really good auditory memory, that information is gone, right? But if it's written down, I can reference it over and over and over again, and it never goes away. So I don't have to ask you again and again and again how to make the mac and cheese, because I can look at it and do it myself. It automatically makes me more independent versus, oh, I want to make mac and cheese. You're like, okay, I'll tell you how to do it. So now I'm in the kitchen waiting for you to tell me each step. You tell me the step and then I go to do it and I forgot what you said. What did you say? It's just a mess. So giving a visual and teaching a child to use a list and a visual makes them more independent. And we use these kind of things all the time as adults. So it's a great life skill. We use recipes. They're on our phones, but they're still a list. And we use to-do lists, right, that we make for ourselves. Oops, I was going to show you this one. So here's a weekday schedule, and then kind of a hygiene schedule. So they come in all different forms. There's another little checklist schedule, and a visual for cleaning the living room, a visual for cleaning the bathroom, for cleaning the bedroom. And if your student is reading well, you don't have to use visuals. You don't have to. Sometimes they're kind of fun, like if you can find like a really quirky one, just to make yourself smile and make it a little more pleasant. But those are some examples of some visual schedules. So we really want to let them practice, and it might get really messy, regardless of what they're doing, right? Whether they're brushing their teeth or they're picking out their clothes, and now there are clothes all over the room. Just keep thinking to yourself that they're picking out their clothes. They're learning to pick out their clothes. They're learning to pick out their clothes. We'll pick up the clothes later. I'm not freaking out because we're almost late for school. It might get messy. But it was messy when we learned to do it also, right? When I started cooking, it was such a mess. We just want to remind you to use safety, right, as we're encouraging you to do things. If it's not safe for your child to use a knife, there are knives that are made for little kids that you can use. If it's not safe for them to be around hot things, you can do things in the microwave, right? There's lots of ways you can adapt it, but this is just kind of a reminder to be safe. Okay, live out loud is a strategy that is really easy to use if you can kind of remember to do it. You might have to like put some stickies around to help yourself remember. But you want to talk out loud about the activity that you're doing. You want to say why you're doing it and talk out the steps. So like at the grocery store, I'm like, oh, I think I'm not going to buy this meat because the expiration date is too soon, and so I'm going to put it back. I'm going to look for one that's after the 15th of November. Okay? So I'm at Chick-fil-A, and I think I'm going to go in and order because the drive-thru is too backed up. Okay? So just kind of like talking out loud, the things that are happening in your head, go ahead and say them out loud so that your child can be exposed to your reasoning and how it is that you're deciding things. So like you're at the store and you need somebody to show you something. You say, oh, I need help at the store. So I can't find the light bulb for the living room, you know, it's that special little one. I'm gonna find somebody and ask them. Can you help me find somebody that has the blue vest or the name tag? And we'll ask that person, they should know. So just kind of like bringing them into your thought process is really, really beneficial. Also using like naturally occurring opportunities to teach, okay, so it doesn't have to be as, you know, we have to do this very special thing that I need to set aside time for, Like I have to brush my teeth every day, so we're all gonna brush our teeth when I'm brushing my teeth, right? I have to fold the clothes, so we're all gonna fold clothes, and I'm gonna spend 5 minutes teaching you to fold the towels, and then you can go play, and then I'll finish all the rest of them, right? So when you're already doing something, it's a really great time to teach. You just have to remember, and you can just do it for part of the time. Just like 5 minutes would make a huge difference if you did it every time if you did 5 minutes every time you did that task. Again, the cooking, you know, we have to eat, right? So if you could have your child help in some way with one thing when it's time for it to be done, or you have a routine of every night we set the table. I don't really think people do this very much anymore, but in my house growing up, we always set the table, and it was always somebody's job to set the table. So that would be a good time to teach. So if a task is overwhelming, don't try to teach everything at once. Just choose one part of the activity to focus on. So let's say that, let me think of a task. So if you're going to wash clothes and it feels like all the steps are too much for your child, just focus on the first part of bringing the clothes to the washer every Tuesday. It's on the calendar. Oh, it's Tuesday, what do? We take the clothes to the washer. Your child goes and helps you get the clothes, and you bring them to the washer. And then after a month, when you get them to the washer, you sort them. You do that for another month. You bring them and you sort them. See, and just do one step at a time. Because we don't want them to be overwhelmed, and we don't want you to be overwhelmed. But every little step adds together to create this really good one. So use motivators if necessary. It's okay to use motivators. You know, first we're going to take the clothes to the washer, and then we're going to go out and swing. Or first we're going to set the table, and then we're going to eat, and you made pudding. We're going to have that for dessert. It's okay to use motivators. I motivate myself. We all motivate ourselves. Let's be real. So it's okay to do that. And I already said this, but just break it down and start with single steps and be consistent, right? And it would help, and it helps to put it on a family calendar. It helps to put it on your calendar, and set yourself a reminder if you're going to start teaching something new. So any task can be broken down. We call this task analysis. So the way you do a task analysis, a way that you can do it, is you can watch someone else do it and write down all the steps to make sure, because we are so accustomed to doing different routines, we don't really think about how many steps there are, but there are a lot of steps to most things. And so you write down the steps. You can, just for fun, you can read the steps out loud and have somebody else do only what you're saying and see if it was successful or not. If it works, then you did a good job. Then you want to fix any mistakes, of course, and then you're ready to start. But so here's some examples of task analysis. So for washing hands, we need to turn on the water, get our hands wet, soap on, rub the hands together, rinse the hands under water, turn the water off, dry our hands. Rubbing your hands together, I'll just add, you have to be specific about that, because this is rubbing your hands together. I rubbed my hands together. Actually, what I meant was 20 times, or whatever number you want to go with. So you do have to kind of be specific with your steps. Greeting a person. You walk up to the person you want to talk to. I mean, have you ever thought about like explaining how to greet someone? But there are actual steps to it. You walk up, you stop, you know, an arm length away, hopefully. You're greeting someone. If you're greeting someone, it's probably not somebody in your family, right? So stop. You look at them. and then you say hi, and you smile at them. So the count to 3 is to keep you from like going, hi, right? Because you're like, whoa. It just makes it calm down a little bit, be a little more relaxed as we're saying hi. Count to 3 first. So that was just a lot of things that I just said. So let's just take a pause for a minute. I need a deep breath. Let's take some breaths. I'm like totally serious, y'all. We're gonna take some deep breaths. Okay, a lot of things. Oh, I did not have a slide for this and I wanted to mention it. Money. Money, how to use money is really, really, really important. And having the ability to have your own money that you manage is a lot of power that we want our kids to have if they're able to do it. So starting young, teaching about money, teaching what money's for. In our family, this is what we do with money. And this is the bank, and we put our money in the bank, and we can look on the screen and see how much money we have. We deposit things. However it is you do it, mobile checks, however you do it, bringing them in early, letting them pay at the grocery store. Even if it's tapping your card on the, I'm not sure what that's called, but tapping your card, or putting the chip in, right? Just participating in how money works is super, super important. And I did not have a screen for that. So, also learning that we work to earn money. How do we get money? We work first, or somebody gives it to us because it was our birthday or it was Christmas, and we have decisions to make when we have money, right? So, money management is super important. Budgeting, super important, so that we teach our kids to buy their groceries and pay their bills first. Just all of those very basic things that we learned kind of the hard way. Most of us learned the hard way, right? Did y'all learn the hard way? I learned how to use money the hard way. Our kids can't afford to learn the hard way. We need to teach them now. So, sorry I didn't have a slide for that, but that's really important. Oops. So, learning to be independent is not quick. It doesn't happen overnight. And it either starts with you making a conscious decision to teach something intentionally, or, and together maybe, kind of take a step back if you've been doing everything for your child. So we're going to kind of talk about a few ways to take a step back, and then we're going to split up into groups, and we're going to we have some questions for you guys to explore together, to have some interaction and to share with each other, and then we're going to come back together and do our survey and close out. So, if you have been doing most things for your child, let me just say that depending on the age of your child and their developmental level, what you're doing for them may be appropriate. But you still all the time want to be thinking, when can I step back? When can I step back? So you have to be really intentional about it because life is fast and you've been doing it. This is kind of your habit. So these are just some ideas to help you with that. So as you go through your day, you could be thinking consciously like, I'm going to step back. How can I step back so they can move forward and be more independent? So some things that have been suggested are like, you can, if you're feeling resistant to it, you can kind of clock how long it actually takes your child to start a task, to answer questions, or to find things, and see like, oh, it really isn't that much longer if I let them put their shoes on. I feel like it's faster because I know what I'm doing and it makes me feel in control. But if I have them do it, it really is only 3 or 4 minutes. It might only be 30 seconds more. We can do this. We can do this. You might want to sit on your hands for a whole task and just practice, giving some cues from, a little bit farther away, instead of being right in on top of everything. If you need to be right there with them, try hand under hand prompts. So one of the ideas for this is that so if you put your hand over their hand, you're really controlling what they're doing, right? But if they put their hand on top of your hand, they can choose to go with you in the movement. Also, they see their hand. It feels a lot more to them like they're doing it because their hand is on top, right? So, it's just, it can be a more respectful way to invite your child into doing something new. So, you can try that. Let your child make mistakes. I don't like to make mistakes, y'all, but it is the way to learn. It is the way to learn. So let your child make mistakes, let your child fail, and be there to support them. Like, it's okay. Now you know. Let's try again, and I'll help you. And just think of, like, how can I build in another layer of support that's not intrusive to help them do this next step that was just really hard for them. Yeah, sometimes it takes too much energy to let them work something out on their own, but you can invest that energy now and have it for you later and for them, for both of you. An idea is kind of to sit farther away when they're doing something to help remind yourself not to immediately reach over and do it for them. Or maybe across the room, or maybe in the next room. And so I know, like, even though it feels right to help them because you're the parent, it can be kind of short-sighted because as they grow and as they get older and we move into the future, we really want them to do more on their own. So this is another funny idea is like, I am not going to intervene this whole time. I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to intervene. You have to tell yourself, I'm not going to intervene. And let them do this whole thing and see. Things may not fall apart as much as you think, right? But you guys know, I mean, you're the parent, so this isn't going to work for every single parent in every single situation. But these are just ideas of how to help yourself, talk to yourself about stepping back and letting them try to do things. This one is a really good one about teaching your child to ask for information from other people or ask other people for help instead of just you, right? Is if you're in a safe environment, in a place where that would be okay, is a really important skill and increases their learning because that person's going to explain it to them differently than maybe you would have. And it helps them in their future endeavors, right? Because we all need to know who to ask and what to ask and how to get help for things. And if you are like really wanting to do this and feeling super overwhelmed, please ask us, ask your child's teacher, like, or another family member, like, help me decide what to do next, and can you help hold me accountable? And can you kind of like do this for me, like if you're at home, like, we're gonna do that, you know, to help you kind of step back and let your child move forward. Oh, when I saw this one, I was like, yep. Teaching our children to decline assistance. Like, thanks, but I'm going to try it by myself. What? That's a great idea, y'all, to teach our kids to do that. Because, especially if our children have like a visible disability, people are really interested in helping. And a lot of our kids can do things on their own, and they need to be able to say that. Like, oh, thanks, but I've got it. Or I want to try it myself. Or I can do it. Is really empowering and important for the public and for our kids. So whenever you're adding prompts to teach something, you want to make a plan to phase them out. So if you're doing hand under hand with your child, in your mind, you always want to be thinking about how you're going to get your hand out of there. And maybe you're just going to do like an elbow touch or just a nudge on the shoulder if you need to. And do it from behind. A lot of times our kids love the social engagement, so if you're in front of them and you're smiling at them and your hand is under theirs and they're doing the thing, when you start moving out of the way, they're like, this isn't fun anymore. You know? So try to do things from behind so they're not getting kind of that reinforcement from your face and that social interaction. So you can give them that when you're playing or when you're doing other things, but when they're learning this new task, we're wanting them to have you in the back. you and really setting in extra time for the things that they're gonna do in your schedule, right? These are just like some practical things because we get frustrated when things aren't going the way we want because of the schedule. All right, so here are our things. It's important to step back. It does not mean you're not a good parent if you're stepping back. We're trying to empower our kids to do things on their own. Acknowledge your own difficulties. Be easy with yourself. Focus on your successes. And remember that if your child is struggling, you're still supporting them, but it's building resilience. It really is building resilience and confidence. So, so good. Okay, I'm going to stop because I want you guys to be able to talk to each other. But this poem is really good. I encourage you to Google on YouTube, well, go to YouTube to Dignity of Risk poem by this person. And there is a video of some adults with disabilities reading this, and it is so powerful. It is so powerful. So I would encourage you to do that. And also, here are some resources for pictures if you're needing to make a picture schedule. If you go to the Purposeful Life website and you get the digital version of this handout, these are links to get you to the right places. And if it doesn't work, just email us and I'll send it to you. You can just be like, it's not working, I need the one for PECs or for autism students. Okay, so this is the end of our Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us. We're sorry you're not here. Okay, so we're going to